Welcome to the Traitors podcast. I'm Matthew, I'm a writer working in unscripted TV development, and this podcast is dedicated to recapping and analysing every episode of The Traitors, not just here in the UK, but in countries around the world. This season of the podcast is dedicated to the Traitors UK Series 4. We have been recapping the main events, analysing the strategy, the tactics, the gameplay, the lies, the bluffs, the double bluffs, the triple bluffs, and even telling a little lie of our own sometimes along the way. You'll find out why. In every episode, I'm joined by a guest co-host, and for the first time this season of the pod, we have a newcomer to the podcast. Well, a newcomer in terms of guest co-hosting, but actually a faithful listener. You may recognise their name. Let's find out who it is. Today I am joined by Maria. Maria Frazer is an author, social worker, and Traitors superfan living in Texas. Her middle grade audiobook, Margarita in the Spotlight, features original, fully performed music and was published by Audible Originals. She also writes adult romantic comedies under the pseudonym Fiona Marin. And Maria is a long-time listener of the podcast, and we often feature her great observations and questions. Maria, it's so great to have you. How are you doing today?
Hello, I'm doing great. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to
And
be here.
thank you for, it is very early for you in the States, so thank you for getting up. You're very, very dedicated. You've seen the episode, you're up early to talk about it. What have you been thinking of? We're almost at the end. We're episode 10 of UK Series 4. How have you felt about this series so far?
I've really been enjoying it. I like this one a lot. I feel like they've had some good missions that haven't felt like you have to skip them, like the
Hmm.
one where they were like the paintings. That was
Yeah.
pretty funny. I like the traders. I think that it's a fun dynamic between Rachel and Steven, and that it's interesting that they haven't started trying to throw each other under the bus yet. Although that kind of my the first bit of that comes up today, but it's just I do think that they're so much stronger. The traders are so much stronger when they work together. So it's really fun to see like that strategy. And yeah, I've been enjoying it a lot. This the people having like moments of brilliance and then absolutely imploding. You're seeing a lot of different sides of things. I wasn't too sure about the secret traitor, and I think that might have eaten up some of the time we usually would get to know, like Jack, for example.
Yeah, yeah.
There was so much time spent on that thing, so I think that did change the dynamic a little bit. But I loved that it ended after 3 episodes, so it worked out.
Yeah, I felt like it had its moment. We didn't need it for much longer than that. I'm okay with where it was. We've got a new twist, of course, in well, the last episode and this episode. We have the dagger, which is the first time it's been used in the UK series. I am often quite negative about that because I've seen it in other versions of the show, but I'm going to be a bit more positive about it here. And I don't want to jump ahead too much, but how did you feel about the dagger twist? Are you interested in it? Do you think it worked out well? Are you glad they used it?
I completely agree with you that I feel more positive about it here than I maybe they even watched other versions and saw how it played out and thought, how can we make this work the most effectively or most interesting, or how can we improve upon how it's been done in other places? Because it's almost like they had it tested out and then they were
Yeah.
able to do an improved version of it. I like that the traders are the ones who do it, and it adds some
Yes.
intrigue, some
Feel the
strategy.
same. We, of course, we're going to talk lots more about the dagger and how it all plays out. Before we say anything else about the episode, we are going to initiate our podcast game, The Traitor Traitor. We are putting Traitors viewers' claims to the test that they could easily spot the traitors' lies and deceptions, and so we're going to play our own game of secrecy and betrayal here on the podcast. The challenge for Maria and I for the remainder of this episode is to tell one sneaky lie to one another. The lie has to be a fabrication or a made-up fact, big, small, about the traitors, or about anything we feel like. For example, I could lie and say that I also have a dagger in my pocket right now, and I don't have a dagger in my pocket right now. However, I couldn't lie and say that I wish I had taken part in this mission. It looked so much fun and really enjoyable. That would be a fake opinion because my true feelings are that I would have hated to do this mission. So we're looking for fake facts and false pieces of information, not just fake thoughts and feelings. Listeners, it's time to put your skills to the test and see if anything lights up your radar before Maria and I play Traitor Hunter in the listener Q&A bonus episode right after this, where we will reveal our lies. Maria, it is the first time on the pod for you. Are you ready to give it a go and try and betray me?
I will try my best.
Okay, our game begins now then. Here we go. It's we're going to talk about episode 10 today. Before we do, there are just a couple of episode 9 catch-up points from listeners. The first one is about James stealing the shield and not telling anyone and then telling people. And on the podcast, the general consensus was that, you know, a traitor would never do that. Like, of course, that doesn't prove that he's a traitor. If anything, that just shows he's clearly a faithful and he was desperate to defend himself. And a couple of listeners sent in comments about that. I did suggest one thing. I said, well, maybe a traitor just wants to stop someone else from getting it. And like Ellie in the last episode said that. She was like, maybe, because when Sam took the shield in the cabin mission, she said, oh, well, maybe he just doesn't want any of us to get it and he is a traitor. However, Lizzie on Spotify and at least one other listener on YouTube pointed out something else from a previous season. They said, this is what Lizzie says, isn't this exactly what Harry did in Series 2, which helped solidify him as a faithful after he revealed it the next day at breakfast and was a major turning point in the game? So I thought back to, this is a really specific moment, but I thought back to Harry, and yes, I do remember he had a shield, didn't tell anyone he had it, and I think what Harry did was then recruited someone that night, but the next day at breakfast pretended that he'd been targeted and pretended, oh, I had a shield and I'm a faithful and they tried to get me and that's why everybody's come back. And everybody believed him and they thought, oh my God, yeah, he's a faithful with a shield. So it did pay off for Harry, and I had forgotten about that. That was a great example. So well done to the people who remembered that. Thanks, Lizzie. I also had an email from Vinny who just pointed out a really easy joke that I missed last time. He said, we missed the Route 1 joke last week with Jack. He was literally a Jack in the Box. Of course he was. And I was saying Jack in the Box. Didn't put two and two together. Yes, that should have been the name of the episode last week. Just simply Jack in the Box. Well done, Vinny. We are going to move ahead. We've got loads of other listener comments and questions. Like I said, we'll come to those in the listener question episode, which comes after this. But for now, we are going to get into episode 10. Here we go. Maria, let's do this. We've got lots to talk about.
Let's do it.
To start with, we've got a recap, and we're reminded that Jesse was the 6th murderer. Goodbye, Jesse. Which shed a bit of suspicion on Stephen as a suspect until he told Roxy that he wasn't a traitor, and everyone believed him, and it was fine. Jade finally cracked under the constant round table attention, got very upset, but it was Ellie who was then banished, and Claudia interrupted their lovely dinner to introduce the double volt dagger. The decision about who receives it is up to traitors Rachel and Stephen, which is where we left them. So we begin with a little bit more of the cloak and dagger cubbyhole. Rachel and Stephen are praying that they've made the right decision. And Rachel says it could backfire massively, the decision they've made. I wondered if that was a clue that she'd given it to herself, just the way she phrased that. I mean, I was wrong, but in the last episode of the pod, I predicted they'd give it to Roxy. David Bloomberg predicted they'd give it to Rachel. They thought Rachel would give it to herself. Then when I went on Instagram Live on Sunday, I made a new prediction and I guessed it would be Jack. So I was wrong twice. Uh, I mean, Maria, did you have any predictions about who they
Thought it
would
would
give
be-
it to, or any thoughts about who they should give it to?
Yeah, I thought Rachel. I thought it would be Rachel because I also when they did the Jack in the Box mission, everyone
Yeah.
thinking that Rachel would be the person who would be recruited.
Mm.
Um, I just, yeah, I thought Rachel would be a good person to give the dagger to, and I could have never expected the way it went at all.
Y-
I thought
Yeah.
I thought that was a terrible, terrible idea.
I mean, at first I was a bit surprised. Well, I mean, we'll get to it, but
Yeah.
I actually I think it has worked out well. Like I think they did well with it. You know, the way
Oh
it all
yeah,
played
it
out
ended
is
up being
exactly
great.
what they wanted.
Yeah,
So,
it played out amazingly. I would not have been able to predict that though.
yeah, we did have one of our listeners is perfectly predicted exactly what would happen. I'll come to that in the bonus episode. But for now, it's breakfast. There's no murder. We know everyone's going to show up. Roxy, Matthew, and Faraz are first, and they notice how small the breakfast table is now. It seems like everybody who comes in goes, "Oh, oh my goodness, it's so small." So they've obviously taken away like a section of it or something. And Roxy claims like she does. They're talking about the vote, the double vote. She says she doesn't want it. She says, "Get that away from me." Faraz suspects that Jade and Stephen are the traitors working together. Faraz says some very interesting things this episode. And Roxy sort of sees, yeah, that could be true. And Matthew's there. Matthew agrees, but also wonders maybe Jack is working Jade because they seem to be close. Not one word about Rachel so far. Rachel seems to be in the clear. Uh, Jack, Rachel, and Jade then arrive next. Jack somehow forgot about the dagger when someone mentioned. I think Rachel
Yeah,
says,
never
"Oh yeah, we're so used
considered.
to just thinking about murder," and he's like, "Oh yeah, the dagger." Like, I thought. First of all, I don't know how he forgot. Secondly, I just wondered if that would look really weird. I wondered if people would question it and be like, how did he forget? This is really odd. Like, did that
If someone
surprise
had
you?
suspicion on him, if anyone else had said that, this is how you know he needed that shield, because if anyone else had said that way they would be bringing that up at the round table. Instead, Rachel just makes a joke about it.
Yeah.
Can't
Yeah,
believe he
yeah.
got away with that.
Yeah, I think you're right. It's Jack. He has actually never had a single vote in the whole show. I watched most of Uncloaked for this episode, and Ed Gamble points that out. Jack has never had a vote, so he is absolutely seen as the faithful of the series. I think at this point. So yeah, he gets away with it. No big deal. He does then go on to question whether a traitor might have given it to themselves. James and Stephen are then in the final two to come back. In the final two, they are the final two to come back. And Stephen talks in his miv about, finding things really difficult at this point. He's really nervous. And again, you could just use any clip of Stephen from any point in the entire series, move them about. Stephen's go-to phrase is something like, "I'm nervous, I'm scared, I'm so worried, I've made a bad call. This is the worst morning ever." He's just like permanently anxious. So in he comes. Claudia arrives soon after, asks them if they're all relaxed, and reminds them that the traitors chose the dagger holder, and tells them she can now reveal that the person who the traitors chose to give the dagger to is James. And they're all shocked. I was shocked. I didn't expect this. My prediction was wrong. James says that well, first of all, James was, he'd been like, "Yeah, I'll take the dagger. I want it."
Yeah, James
He's,
and Faraz both said they wanted the dagger, and everyone else was like, absolutely not. But James wanted it, and then he got it.
yeah, I mean, I'm not surprised that James would say something like that. It's quite on brand for James to just be like, "Yeah, give me the dagger, I'll take it." So now that he's got it, he's surprised, but he thinks it's really clever gameplay by whoever the traitors are. And we flash back to Rachel and Stephen making their decision last night. They think that giving themselves the dagger might just draw too much attention to themselves, which I think probably is wise to
Mhm.
just do like what most of the players are saying, just get it away from themselves, put the attention on other people. And they settle on James because they think it will cause the most damage. They reckon he's going to vote for Matt. That's what he's been doing for a while now, and that falls in line with what they want. They want to get rid of Matthew before he realizes they are not going to follow through with the deal that he made. They're not going to recruit him. And they also think it could look like a double bluff from Matthew. We go back to breakfast. For a moment, there's just stunned silence. And Claudia tells them, I imagine that's got all your head spinning. That's also going to happen at the mission. To which they don't seem, they're all a bit horrified by what that might suggest. James calls the traitors, you beautiful, murderous legends. He's really celebrating. He thinks this is the best thing ever. I mean, I would think the opposite. I think I would be quite worried if I had been given the dagger. I, I, I don't know. I think it would suggest that the traitors have got me sussed and that it's obvious who I'm going to vote for. That's why they've given me it. Like it might suggest that I'm quite naive or that I'm just sort of being played by the
There's
traitors. I don't.
something, right? Like something's up. And I thought for sure they wouldn't give the dagger to somebody like who is going for somebody else, because then it would be obvious that why would the traitor give the dagger to somebody who they knew who was going to vote for them.
Yes.
Um, so yeah, it was such an interesting choice.
Yeah.
But yeah, he just takes it in stride. He's like, yes,
Yeah.
because you're playing
Loving
right
it.
into my hand, traitor. I really like
I
him.
I
He's
had the
so
same
fun.
thought process as you.
Mhm.
I again did an Instagram live on Sunday. If you missed it, it's on the YouTube page for the podcast. It's on the Instagram page for the pod. And I had the same thought process. I thought, wait a minute, yeah, if if I was a faithful and the next morning James got the die, I would immediately think, well, he's going to vote for Matthew. I think we all know this. So surely the traitors are not Matthew. Like the traitors must be someone who are quite confident they've not given it to someone who's going to vote for them. But
And Rachel
paranoia gets the better of you, I suppose.
even would not have given it to somebody they knew was going to vote for them.
Right.
Like, definitely would not have done that. And
Yeah.
so it's really funny the way it works out.
Yeah. I mean, I guess this cast seem very obsessed with the idea of double bluffs and that the traitors will never do the obvious things. And right on cue, back at breakfast, Matt immediately starts asking, well, why it's not me. Why would I have given this to James if I was a traitor? And he says, James was probably going to vote for me tonight. I would have been an idiot. Um, but yeah, the rest jump straight into no, no, no. Like James is saying, no, first of all, I wasn't necessarily going to vote for you, and maybe it's your one play left. It's actually very clever what you're doing, and even Rachel, of course, plays it up. She says, "Oh, is that a really, really stupid play, or is it a genius play?" So Rachel is celebrating in her Mev that this has gone perfectly. This is exactly what they wanted to happen. Back to Matthew now accusing Jade of being a traitor, and she's masterminded all of this. So yeah, it's worked out well for Rachel and Stephen. No one is looking at them. They're all just looking at James and Matthew, and even Jade. So it seems
Yeah.
like they did make the right decision. I guess they knew their fellow team players. They knew how they would think of it. So they've done well.
I like what she says about him. She says, um, he's here because we need him to be. His beautiful thought process helps our game.
Right. Exactly. I know it's so funny that he in his interviews like, oh, you clever, you beautiful traitors, you, and then the traitors are like, James, well done, you have
Simple
done exactly what we
brain.
wanted. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's time for some castle reality. We spread off out from the breakfast room. James is convinced that Roxy and Matt are the traitors. Meanwhile, Matthew's convinced it's Jade. He's claiming that her reaction this morning was really false. When Matthew sort of confronted her or suggested that she might be a traitor, Faraz agrees. He thinks that Jade's only defense ever is that she's being set up, and he doesn't like that. Jack's in the room with them, and even Jack now thinks, yeah, there's surely Matthew wouldn't have done this to himself. This doesn't make sense. And Roxy goes, oh, maybe, come on, maybe we're just missing the obvious with James. Nobody, I'm the only one that keeps going for him. And maybe that's why I'm still here. He's kept me here. And she's just way off. Come on, like, it's just so funny that she's like, maybe we're missing the obvious with James. Or maybe you're missing the obvious with Rachel. Maybe that's the obvious thing. But no, she's stuck on James. And yeah, at this point, it's just so. I mean, this doesn't last the whole episode, but it's wild to me that every single name is going around as a suspect, apart from Rachel and Stephen. Like everyone seems to have been mentioned, and maybe their names had been mentioned and we just don't see it, but they have absolutely evaded suspicion at this point. It seems, and Jack, I guess nobody
And
suspects Jack
Fries,
ever.
is anyone suspecting for us?
Uh, I suppose yeah, nobody is really suspecting for Rachel's, I think, tried a couple of times to put his name out there, but yeah, I don't think anyone he's not on anyone's list. I don't even know if Faraz has even had votes. Jack hasn't, but
Oh, maybe
if he
not.
has, maybe one or two. So yeah, Faraz would be in there. Uh, in the billiards room, we've got Stephen, Rachel, Jade, and James. They're having a chat, and Stephen is playing up how quickly Matthew immediately jumped on the defense at breakfast, and how Matthew immediately said, "You know, I would never have done that. That would be stupid." It's so funny that Stephen did the exact same thing yesterday when Jesse was murdered. He immediately went into, "Well, that wasn't me. I would never do that." But now he's attacking Matthew for the same thing. James and Jade don't question that at all. They just sort of go along with Stephen. Rachel then questions James right to his face and says, well, we have to consider you're the traitor. Maybe you've given it to yourself to have fun with. And James is sort of like, yeah, I know, I get it, I get it. Stephen tells us in his interview that he reckons he and Rachel have done really well. And he says, I think we've bought ourselves at least another day. We've got another 24 hours in the castle. And I think, yep, at this point, that's what it looks like. Although I did worry for a moment that they had included this clip. It reminded me of Hugo when the day
Mm-hmm.
that Hugo was banished, he came into breakfast going, I mean, I don't want to get too ahead of myself, but we're doing really well. Like, no one is suspected the traitor. And then he gets banished that episode. So for a moment when Stephen said this, I think we've got at least one more day. I thought, what? Why did they include that? Like, something's going to happen. So I got a bit paranoid, but it's all fine. In the kitchen, Matthew has a little moment with Jay, can I hug you? And she's like, no, I don't want a hug from a traitor. They're kind of kidding, but
But
she
kind of
she does.
not.
Yeah, kidding, but not. Yes, exactly. And she tell Jade in her Miv says she thinks Matthew's trying to get into people's heads, and it's reminding her of Hugo and Fiona and the way that they behaved. But then she goes on and says, "Oh no, maybe it's too obvious. Maybe there's someone else flying under the radar." So so many players have these thoughts. They have these moments where they say, maybe it's someone really quiet. Maybe it's someone we're not looking at. Maybe it's someone I'm close to. But they don't push it any further than that. They don't then follow up.
I do really like it when all the traders act differently and have like just lean into their own personalities and go about things differently because it does kind of hide it. They can't use that as a blueprint of, oh, this is how the traders act.
Yeah,
And so if someone's acting like Hugo or Fiona, then that means they're a traitor. I like it when, and also it's more interesting TV when they all kind of go about go about the game a little bit differently.
right. And I
Yeah.
think Rachel is very consciously trying to act differently and distance herself from Fiona anytime it's mentioned. She's just like, that was all Fiona, that was nothing to do with me.
That was
So
weird. I don't know what that
yeah,
was.
she's
I think
much
she's
more.
playing such a fun game. I really like seeing how Rachel is playing it.
Yes, agreed. I'm so impressed with her. I said it last time, I'm sticking to it. I hope Rachel wins. I'm really rooting for her. I think she's done so well. Of course, something happens at the end of this episode that might throw things, but we'll see. Maybe it's a red herring. I don't know. Stephen is in the kitchen, keeps going at it. He's pretending to wonder if the dagger is Matthew's swan song because he knows he's in trouble. And we cut to Matthew in confessional saying, actually, he's worried Stephen is the traitor, but he can't accuse Stephen because it might just backfire. Maybe that just earns a vote from Stephen, and Matthew just needs to do whatever he can to avoid any extra votes at this point. So he's not gonna call out Steve. And I think he knows that no one else is really going for Stephen right now, so he doesn't want to be the only one doing that. And actually, again, in the uncloaked, when we find out, I don't know if you managed to. Can you like get uncloaked in the States? Is it easy for you to watch it?
Yeah, I was able to watch it.
Okay.
And
Have
then
you
of
seen this
course I
one?
post on Instagram the little clips of the.
Yeah. The reveals, yeah, yeah. Have you seen Matthew's reveal where he finds out the truth?
Yes, I did.
Yeah, he's dressed so smart. He's got the most lovely suit on, but he names Stephen. He's like, I think he guesses it's Jade and Stephen.
Mhm.
So if he had stuck around, which means it probably was wise of them to
Yeah.
engineer his banishment because he was going to come for Stephen at some
They've
point.
really been doing a good job of weeding out the people who are onto them. I feel like they've
Yeah,
not only been able to get their murders, but kind of strategically banish people so
yeah,
that they're left with, because some people have been naming them on the way out, but at that point, it doesn't really matter.
right. Yeah, I agree. And actually, we've got a question from a listener specifically about Matthew and how he may be one of the best faithful ever. So we're going to come to that
Ooh.
opinion. To the people in the kitchen, Matthew then announces that if he is banished tonight, then they ought to look at who voted for him. He says, if I get votes tonight, then the traitors will be amongst those votes. So there's some evidence after I'm gone, pay attention to it. And he's saying this that's obviously why they've given the dagger to James, because they want to vote with him and get me out. And Stephen then sort of has to consider, oh, should I now vote for Matthew? Is this bad for me? He says, but I don't know who else I would vote for. So he's got this moment of conflict. And I need, I had the cliche klaxon on the podcast. I need a Stephen klaxon. I need a sound effect for any time Stephen says, this is difficult. I'm really nervous. I'm worried. This could be bad for me. I've made a bad decision. Just any of those. Some sort
Oh, I
of,
need
some
him to
sort of,
play with Alan Carr. Like maybe they can do a Traders live experience together, have Alan and Steven be in a group together. I think that would be so funny.
yeah,
Just
just
so
like any,
anxious and sweating and
yes,
red.
anxious. Exactly, anxious, sweaty, like uncomfortable noises. Yeah, this a group of them. But actually, no, I get anxious watching Stephen. Like I'm like, oh God, no, I'm nervous. Like Stephen, calm down.
I wonder if he's having fun. It seems like he is still having fun, even though he's just falling apart at every second. It seems like he's still enjoying it.
I hope so. I really hope so. I hope he's not like traumatized by all of this.
Well,
I,
he's
I he-
he's dressed very well. I liked his dark green with the light green polo. That was
yes,
nice.
yes, he's not so stressed that he can't bring us his looks every day. So that's good. That's a good sign.
And I do want to say, in terms of my thoughts overall for this series, the time that Jade and Steven dressed the same, I really liked that. I thought that was really funny. And it's funny that they happen to be allies. Like we find out today that they're tight allies,
Yeah,
Steven, Jack, and Jade. And so they brought in the same look on the same day. So I thought that was
yeah.
pretty good.
Yep, something psychologically is connecting them, absolutely. It's time for the mission, and we're heading there in the cars. The players are speculating about Claudia's clue about spinning, and they're like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna be spinning on something." And Jack goes, "I just hope it's nothing too fast." It just made me laugh. I thought, Jack, you're a PT. You're like supposed to be like the really fit guy, but it's just Jack. he seems very sweet and lovely. It's just so funny of Jack to be like, "Oh, I hope it's not a fast spinny thing." I think the other car, James, yeah, James is telling the people he's with that he thinks they're all faithful. Rachel and Stephen are in his car, and he's pretty confident that they're going to get Matthew out tonight. And then, yeah, again, I worried, oh, is this all too obvious that they're including like James saying this? Is it going to flip and James is going to get banished? I wasn't sure where it was going. And he did say something really funny here. He says, I get paid to, he's a gardener. He says, I get paid to plant seeds for a living. So I'm doing it as a faithful at the minute. So I thought, yeah, well done,
Like he was
James.
doing it. Did he say he's doing it now? He's doing it as a favor. So he
Oh, is that?
said, it looks like I'm planting seeds. I am. I get paid to plant seeds for a living, so I'm doing it as a favor at the minute. I thought that, oh my goodness, I thought it was so funny
Very good line, James.
how
Well
he does
done.
it for free.
There's also Faraz has a great line at the later in this mission, which I wrote down, which really made me laugh. So we arrive at the carousel. Oh no, oh my goodness. We've sort of seen like creepy clown missions and stuff in this vein, in this world. It's a sort of post-apocalyptic, scary carnival, sort of like It, the horror film or something. And the mission is what we probably could have guessed. They're going to strap into chairs on a spinning carousel. When it stops, they have to get out, run, grab cuddly toys dotted around the fair, rip them apart, and see if they can find money bags. The money bags are worth various amounts. The total available hidden around the fair is £12,000. If they bring back the money, they can go back onto the carousel. And all Claudia tells us at this point is that the last player left on wins a shield. There's a little bit of a twist that we don't find out until they begin. This is
Oh,
my
it
worst
is.
nightmare.
But he
Sorry.
said whoever's sitting at the carousel at the end, they win a shield. So
Yes.
I don't know why they would have thought that all of the chairs would still be there at the end. Like, how did facts like
Yeah.
they're all going to win
I
shield?
well, I thought that maybe there was a time limit. So maybe it'd be like 10 seconds left, and so you might just miss your time to run back with money. Or I thought, yeah, I thought maybe did they just keep going until people like faint and throw up? And like it's just a physical test of stamina, like
Yeah.
whoever can bear to be the last. But then that could go on for hours. So yeah, I did also sort of think, wow, are they just gonna keep going until everyone is like unconscious? I don't know, which I would be. I like rides and roller coasters, but spinning things, no, like not for me. Are you a fan of like
I
rides
would,
that spin in circles?
no, not necessarily. I wouldn't ride a
No.
roller coaster either, though.
Okay. Yeah,
But and I
I know.
do think this is better than I would do this over the one they did in um the first series where they went
Oh
upside
yeah, like a
down
wheel.
and
Yeah, they were literally going upside down.
they
I
were dangling from their feet. Like I would
yeah.
prefer this. However,
Oh,
also
I this no, this is my number. I would rather go upside down and be suspended
really
there than spin for. I have thrown up more than once on spinny rides. Not no. I think I would immediately just be like, I'm not doing this. Sorry. So and we
would
see some of
be the
them.
first one out.
Yeah, first one, I'd be like, I don't want the shield that bad. I'm not doing this. Or maybe I'd give it one go. Nah. But and from the look, they all look like it's pretty hideous. So the mission begins. Rachel tells us she wants the shield because she really wants to murder tonight. I mean, it doesn't really make a difference. Like, only one person's going to get it, but I think she just means she wants free reign. She wants to be able to choose whoever without a limitation.
Well, and at this point, I thought, oh, it's good that Frost is the first one out because he's the obvious murder.
Yeah, yeah. So.
Because there's a couple people that you don't want to get the shield, and so
Right,
he's the
right.
okay.
And and he probably would have been their obvious simple choice
Yeah.
until what he says in the last 10 minutes, which throws a
Right.
spanner in the works. But yeah, it probably at that point
At the
was
time,
good
I
for
was like,
Rachel and
oh,
Stephen.
excellent. They're going to be just fine.
Yeah. Yes. Lots to talk about with Faraz. So, they off they go. Stephen is running in zigzags, and They rip the bears apart. I wondered, I thought there was like a clue on the bears, but I don't think there is. I think they just have to like pull them apart until they find money. They all seem to find some money. They run back, and then Claudia reveals, like you said, Maria, it's basically musical chairs. One or two chairs will be removed each round. Faraz is out first, and he had the money in hand. So we realize even if they come back with money, that just doesn't get included if you don't get a seat. And Faraz delivers this great line, which is, "It's definitely more unfair than funfair." I thought, well done, very good wordplay. That may be the episode title for this podcast episode, I'm thinking.
He also, when they
James,
got there, pointed out that the popcorn was green, and then the
yes,
top of the popcorn, and I didn't think it really looked that green. So maybe they had to include that so we could see the effect, because otherwise I don't think we would have noticed.
yeah, I sort of thought this. I was like, oh, yeah, it's a bit green, but I thought, how did Faraz, like when they're running, how did he even notice it? Like, how did they have time to take in those details? Maybe there was some popcorn that was really green elsewhere, and we just
Maybe,
didn't see it. But
maybe
yeah,
it just
that
didn't
stuck out to
show
me.
up in the camera. I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah, yeah. And you're right. Maybe they were like, just talk about how green the popcorn was. Like, give us that line. He's like, okay. So next up, James is it's spinning again. James looks like he's gonna pass out. Off they go. It's madness. Next round, Matthew's eliminated. The spinning gets faster. The two seats are removed. Stephen and Rachel both end up eliminated on this one. Then it starts raining. Of course, it starts raining, and James is out next. And it's amazing. Imagine he'd had the shield and the dagger. He'd have been like some sort of knight. Like I just had this
Oh
image of
yeah.
him coming in at the round table with the shield and his dagger, but no, he's out. Final spin ends up with Jack versus Roxy versus Jade. Off they go. Jack finds some money. Roxy finds money. I think Jade finds some as well. They run back, but actually Jack is there first. He is the winner. He gets the shield. And I think Roxy or Jade, they had like £2,000, but it's not going to get added to the prize fund. Claudia tells
And
them
that
that they
is
have
Jade.
gathered.
We had the
Yeah, it was.
2000, and
Yes,
she
Jade.
didn't get
Yeah,
added.
yeah.
Now is
Devastated.
when now is the time when they get a little testy about the um, prize fund, because it actually might go to them. Whereas
Oh,
before it's a little bit more nebulous, but now it's like, oh, one of us is going to take home this money and
yeah.
potentially split it four ways.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the smaller it gets, the more real it becomes. Agreed. What they have gathered collectively in this mission is £9,250. That's pretty good out of the 12,000 that was possible. Jack looks ghostly white as he receives his shield, and apparently I thought he was kidding when he said, "Can I just walk back?" But I think he actually does walk back when they
He's not
because
in
the
one of the
others.
cars.
Yeah, and Matthew
And
says,
any
like,
car is
kind
not
of
a
wish
big
I'd gone back
deal.
with him. Yeah. So it couldn't have been that far if they were like, "Oh, yeah, you can walk if you want." Like, it's not
Maybe
like
he
10 miles
like
away.
stayed back with the crew until he was like, and then he got a separate ride back with them or something
Yeah.
when he was
Yeah.
feeling better. That was bizarre because it didn't look like it was close.
Yeah, maybe the medics on set were like, "Oh, you really are going to be sick if you get in the car. We'll just wait with you for a while." So poor Jack. In the cars on the way back without Jack.
I think
the
it should have been worth it to him though, because he would have, especially after what happens later, he would have been an easy target if he hadn't
yeah,
gotten.
yes, agreed. The players are basically dread in the round table, and for the first time, Matthew says that if Jade isn't a traitor, it's Stephen and Rachel. He's right on the money. I think it's the first time anyone has said it's them, it's these two
Yeah,
people.
I think so.
Yeah, and and Faraz also says he suspects Rachel too. I gasped. I literally gasped at this moment. I'm so because I thought, "Oh, it's not just one person. Two people are saying
Yes,
Rachel
my
in the
heart
same
dropped.
car." Like
Yeah.
first hint of that, really surprised. And I know maybe logically everyone is saying everyone's name. Of course, everybody's name is going to be mentioned, but this seemed quite on the nose, and they seemed quite certain of themselves. So I was worried for Rachel for the first time. And something else happens later. Well, several things happen later that make me worried for Rachel. But we go back to the castle. It's lasagna time. They're all very excited about the lasagna, and Jack tells us, the viewer, that he talks about, well, he keeps he's talking about settling into the role of a faithful, and he's really loving it a lot more now. And when he arrived, it was all quite overwhelming. First of all, he calls it a fateful rather than a faithful. Maybe that's just his accent. Maybe that's just the way he talks. It's quite funny. And I noticed here, maybe it's just the fact he's got a shield. I think this is the most screen time Jack has had in an episode.
For
Like, I
sure.
feel like I'm getting more of a sense of him. Maybe that is just because there are fewer people left and he has the shield, so he's kind of important here. Or is it a sign that he's gonna be around to the last episode, so they kind of need to give us a bit more of Jack? Like, sometimes that's
Oh,
a bit
he
of a clue
doesn't
in the
seem to
edit.
have been having a winner's edit at all. This whole time, I thought when you did your Instagram live, I said he has a 0% chance of winning, and now I'm getting a little nervous that maybe we'll have a Jack win. I mean,
I
he seems
mean,
nice.
yeah, I
I
still
just want
don't
the
think he'll
traders to
win.
win.
I just think he might make it to the very
Yeah,
end.
especially not being murdered. I think not being murdered. I don't think he's going to be banished
Yeah,
in the next round table. He's not on anybody's list to be the next banished. So I think
yeah.
there's a really good shot of him being at the end game.
And maybe I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this will be the last murder if I count through the
Yeah, I
people.
think it might be.
Yeah, I think this is it. So you're right. I can't see him getting banished, and therefore he's probably going to be right in the end.
And
So
when
maybe
they
they
have the lasagna, Roxy asks she asks them, which part do you like the best? And they all say they like the crispy corners.
I disagreed with them. I immediately was like, no, I want the middle. I don't want a crispy edge. Like, I find the crispy edge of the lasagna sheets not enjoyable. I just want like soft, melty, delicious. Where are you on lasagna? Which part do you want?
I don't know. I think I see both sides. I'll take it
I
all. But even
take
you would
yeah,
fit in well with that castle because they could there was like four of them who wanted corners, and so they would all be gone, and you
yeah,
could just have the middle.
yeah. I'd be happy with
One
that.
piece
Like you
dinner
take
in the middle.
yeah, you take the edges. I will be left with the bit in the middle. I'm okay with that.
I guess I
Don't.
would probably, I don't know, I do like a corner, but I think if it was just a regular edge versus the middle, I would probably go for the middle.
Okay, okay. This I had this exact conversation with my partner as we watched it. I was like, The corners, what?" So I'm glad that you also were really focused on this, like I was. Uh, in
That was
the
so down in a second.
We've got some players in the billiards room. Matthew, who seems to be dressed in like priest cosplay. It's giving reverend. It's giving vicar. And that's not a diss. He's very well dressed, and I like what he's wearing. And he reckons, it's obvious. It's between him and James tonight. He assumes that James is a traitor. Roxy is there. She just keeps going on about James, but she does say that she trusts Rachel and Stephen the most, and maybe she should think more about that, which she did say last episode and then immediately dismissed it. But she decides she needs to speak to Rachel. Off she goes, and Rachel's in the kitchen. She's talking to some others, claims that she thought she was going to get to the end with Matthew as a faithful and they'd be there at the end and they'd trust each other, but now she's seeing him totally differently. And she's saying she doesn't suspect Jade as much as she did before. Faraz, though, says he does suspect Jade. He says she's always very defensive, and he doesn't think her defense is very effective. And he thinks that Jack is maybe still in the game because of Jade. Apparently, like because they're close, they're pals. Maybe that's what's going on. And Jack sort of nods, like, yeah, maybe that's true. Roxy then arrives, and this really made me laugh. Maybe I read it wrong. She says to Rachel, "Can we have a private chat at some point?" And then just has the chat in front of
In
everyone.
front of everybody, yes. Yeah. She doesn't
I
pull her
thought,
aside. They're like, oh, okay, we'll just have it here.
yeah, yeah, I was waiting for them to go off somewhere, but no,
Yeah.
Roxy just can't wait and tells her she keeps thinking, why am I still here? She is wondering if it's because Rachel is a traitor and is it because she's keeping her here and she's actually getting upset? So Rachel just sort of plays dumb and is like, well, me? You think it's me? Well, it's not. I just love you to bits. It's not me. That's not what's going on. They have a hug. She reassures her and talks to us, the viewer, Rachel, saying it is so difficult. You see people getting upset, but you've got to play your role, and there's this dilemma between playing the game and trying to win, but also you don't want to be cruel to people. And she says she's trying to be respectful, she's trying to be kind as much as she can. It's really, and I see that it must be so tough. The further it goes, the fewer people there are to keep. They're playing this game for like 2 or 3 weeks. To keep that up till the very end yeah, it must be incredibly difficult.
Yeah. And they
They
do that, they make them go around and say like why they want the money to like
Yeah,
really make the traders feel like guilty, like they're trying to get the trade like see these people who are very interesting and who you love now, you're going
yeah,
to take the money from them. And I think Roxy is in her end game plans, so she does have to contend with the with making Roxy's face fall and making her
yeah,
sad. So
yeah. It's tough. It's tough. They eventually do leave the room, Roxy and Rachel, and although they've seems like they've had their chat. So Faraz is now with Jack alone, and he says that he actually does suspect Rachel. And Jack nods along, like, yeah, maybe it is her. I've kind of had that thought from time to time. So this is really throwing me again.
yes.
Maybe everybody's saying everybody's name, but this was a bit of a shocker for me. And Jack also says he's even got tiny doubts about James, and James is his friend. They usually vote the same way. So Faraz and Jack do their sort of like fist bump or whatever. They're like, yeah, we trust each other. Like we're hundies. Yeah, you and me. You're the one that I trust the most. So they've got a little alliance. Maybe that's going to help them. It's time for the round table next. As we come in, we've got our mevs from a few people. Not surprising, it's James. He says he's walking in with 2 votes. I feel like a titan. And I even at that, I thought, uh-oh, are you being too confident? Is this bad, James?
And the
Matt's
whole
coming.
day, James has been, every time someone walks in a room, especially Stephen and Rachel, oh, here comes the faithful. Oh, I'm going to
Yes.
speak with these faithfuls. Like, you know what? I really like James. I feel like he's playing how I would play it, where he's trying so hard and he's trying to strategy and reason things out. And he's trying to use strategy. It's just taking him to the wrong results. And that
Right.
feels relatable because I think that's what would happen to me. But he's
Yeah.
been since the beginning, like knowing what to do. Like that first time on the chariot, he was like, I need the shield. And then he got a little antsy sitting for so long. I was like, never mind, I need to go, I need to go run around.
Yeah.
He's not like just being, he's not trying, he is being dragged to the end, but he's not trying to be dragged to the end. He's trying to play the game. It's just he's not doing it well, or he is, I
Yeah.
guess. Well, he's at the end.
Yeah.
He's into the end game. He's just not figuring things out.
Right. His hunches are just so off with
Yeah.
Matt. And you're right. There was even in the mission, there was a moment where he got back to the chair and uh, Stephen came back and sat beside, and he was like, "Oh, great, another faithful."
Yes.
Stephen was just like, "Ah, yeah." So Matt is also coming into the banishment room, and Mev, he's saying, "There's heat on me, but I've got plenty to say. I'm not going to go out without a fight." He wants to turn votes against Jade if he can. Although I don't know why he isn't just focused on James, but and then we see Rachel speaking, and I thought, what? Why are they showing us Rachel?
Right.
Usually, the people they're showing us here are the people who are going to get some votes and be important. And she unknowingly carries on James's analogy of planting seeds. She's like, I've planted my seeds against Matthew. I'm going to bring it up at the round table. but she's worried about James being unpredictable. So, but yeah, I thought, what are they doing to my Rachel? Why are they showing my Rachel in this moment? I don't do this to me. What's Faraz gonna do? I don't like this. And we come, Claudia arrives, the prize fund is £66,750, a lot of money. And she reminds them, of course, that James has the dagger, which means a double vote. As soon as she opens up the discussion, Matthew jumps in, he's coming for Jade straight away. She's just fed up of being questioned all the time, particularly by Matthew. His reasoning is she's defensive. He thinks her only rebuttal is to attack back to the person that's naming her. She insists that's not true. She says, no, I always ask questions of various people at the round table, and asks, what is it about my behaviour in general that suggests I'm a traitor? Have I done anything that seems like traitor activity? And Faraz supports Matthew. He says, yeah, you just keep saying you've been set up all the time, but I don't know who you think is setting you up. So Matthew asks, well, who do you suspect? And she's like, well, it's really tough now. You've just said that I only come back at the people that accuse me, but
And she
obviously I think
does
it's
tend
you.
to come back at, she does tend to come back at the people who accuse her. And
Yeah,
I think it makes sense that they're like, if you're faithful and if someone's accusing you, you know that they got something wrong. Like, you know that they're wrong about something. So potentially they're a traitor, but she has been doing that the whole game.
yeah. I guess with
Amanda,
Amanda accused her and she was sort of right back
and
on
she
Amanda's
kind of dug
case.
her into a hole. She got kind of just had to, she got backed into a corner, I think, and had to keep doing that. But
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah.
doesn't,
So,
yeah. But she tries here. She's working.
yes,
She's not
yeah,
doing it on purpose, I don't think, but I understand the reflex.
yeah, it seems like that is her main way to decide who she thinks it is. I guess it doesn't. She's like, well, I know I'm a faithful,
Mhm.
so therefore, if
So I
someone is
know for
coming
sure
really
that you're
hard for
wrong.
me,
Right.
that does suggest something might be
Yeah.
suspicious about that. But
Right.
so she says, well, apart from you, Matthew, she does suspect James. Faraz, she mentions Roxy and she does throw out something new here and says, well, there was that thing that Stephen mentioned. I thought they'd totally forgotten about this, but she says, well, you were the last person seen at the family tree portrait with Maz. Of course, she wasn't really the last person seen, but Reese is not here to tell them about Rachel and Stephen or anyone else. So, and Roxy's just like, yeah, yeah,
To
fair
be
enough,
fair,
sure.
If Reese was here, I don't think he'd be able to provide that insight.
True. He never brought it up at all. Although some listeners have still been saying, why did Reese never mention that Rachel and Stephen were at that
I
portrait?
don't think he put it
And
together.
all I can think of is we don't know how early on in the night I mean, they might have done that, and it was like an hour later before everyone went to bed. So in Reese's mind, he might have been like, well, he just might have heard Stephen say that Maz and Roxy were the last people, and he's just believed that and been like, oh, well, it must have been before that I saw Rachel and Stephen. There's no point in mentioning it. Or maybe
Right.
lots of
It
people
was
were
before.
naming people they saw, and Reese is just like, well, I'm just another person naming people I saw at the portrait. It
Because
doesn't mean anything.
Stephen wasn't with Rachel when she did the thumbprints. So,
He sort of moved off to keep watch, yeah. So
so I think that they did it was much earlier, and so they showed so many people walking by.
yeah, yeah. So
So, but
it's
also
probably
he
not
just
quite as it
trusted them.
seems.
Yeah.
He tried exactly. He thought they were faithful. He was quite close to Rachel, sure. So Reese just
Oh, yeah.
didn't occur to him. James speaks up next. He comes for Matthew, of course, and claims that he's trying to stitch up Jade and that the dagger was just a big double bluff. Matthew actually gave it to James because it wouldn't look like he had done it. And Jack says that at the last round table, it was Matthew versus Jade versus Ellie. Those were the three it was between. So this time, yeah, Matthew knew he was probably going to get votes again. He's given James the dagger as a last ditch mad tactic to avoid obvious suspicion. But Matthew's just like, I would never have taken that chance. Like, that would have been madness. I'm not an idiot. I would not do that. Faraz supports him and says, yeah, with so few people left, surely Matthew wouldn't take that risk. When potentially there only are a couple of votes deciding these banishments now, Matthew wouldn't do that to himself. And Roxy asks James, who does he suspect? If Matthew is banished and ends up being proven a faithful, James just says, well, you, of course. Roxy gives them a bit of a speech. She says, we've got to come together as a faithful group, and she doesn't suspect Matthew. She thinks James is the only person she's seen display traitorous behaviour. He's pushing everything on Matthew tonight. He's given himself the dagger. That's the obvious answer to her. And James, I'm going to use the klaxon here, okay?
Cliche klaxon.
Because he essentially says, vote with me tonight. Let's get out Matthew. If I'm wrong, I'm gone next. He's kind of like, you can vote for me next, which no one should ever say. Like, don't give them a reason to vote for you. And Rachel agrees, like, James, you are going really heavy on this. That's the first time I've seen you going so hard for someone. I feel like you're trying to sway me. I don't want to be swayed. And she claims this is one of the most important votes they've ever had and doesn't know how she's going to vote. But she doesn't like how James is being too pushy. Of course, we know the truth, but she's doing her best to appear like a faithful that just wants to make up her own mind. And Stephen steps in to basically back up Rachel and repeat what she said.
He uses some of the
Even,
same language as her.
yeah, it's. I wonder if anyone would
Or
notice that they're
yeah.
kind of
I don't know if
echoing
that's
each
like
other.
a common phrase, but I noticed that he used the same verbiage.
Yeah, yeah,
Of
interesting. And
having
I mean, maybe it helps that Jack comes in right after that to do it as well. Like he's friends with James, they're close, and he says, "Yeah, if we vote out Matthew and it's wrong, I will have to look at you, James." So maybe that makes it look less like it's just Rachel and Stephen. Like
yeah.
if Jack's also going along with it, and yeah, it occurred to me at this point. It's kind of amazing that it's the discussion is totally focused on James versus Matthew with a little bit of Jade. They don't ever just stop and think, maybe we have been played. Maybe it is just neither of them. Maybe the traitors have set all of this up. We've fallen right into it, but they don't. They've sort
Well,
of decided
they do
this is the
stop to
truth.
think
This is the way
that,
it is.
but they
Um,
think, oh, maybe it's not Matthew versus Jade. It's James. They stop to think maybe we're being set up and the traitors are having two faithful go at each other. And so it must be James in that case.
yeah, yeah.
They're
It just
trying. They're working on it. They're just not
I
getting
guess.
anywhere.
Yeah, yeah. They're just sort of not breaking out of any names that aren't already in that conversation.
Yeah, yeah.
Which maybe that's tough. Like Faraz kind of says, or Matthew said earlier about Stephen. Maybe you don't want to be the one person that throws out a new name all of a sudden. Maybe
Yeah,
maybe
and
you still are trying to just go along with everybody.
I know he had said on Uncloaked that that's why he didn't bring up Stephen at the table because he thought, oh well, if I bring him up, he'll vote for me.
Mm,
But in the end, obviously, Stephen votes for him anyway, so
yeah,
probably
yeah, it wouldn't have mattered.
may as well have tried it.
Yeah, and Stephen now turns towards Matthew a bit and says that every time he has been about to vote for Matthew, Matthew talks him out of it. He's so well spoken at the round table. And he brings up what Matthew said in the kitchen that they should all look at whoever votes for him tonight because the traitors are likely in that group. So Stephen uses it to his advantage though and says, actually, I feel like that was your way of putting us off voting for you. You were trying to scare us out of voting for you. But Matthew reiterates, no, James has very deliberately been given the dagger by a traitor, and that at least one traitor will vote for him tonight to fall in line with that plan. Like that's clearly what's happening. And James sort of can't help himself and goes, "Oh, because you know who the traitors are." And he's saying, "Look, I could tell the way you're speaking, your language, you're giving it away that And Matthew's just like, no, that's not what I'm saying. And a few more accusations. And Jade's like, now I'm confused. I don't know which one of you to go for. And Matthew, James, and Jade just throw these accusations back and forth until Claudia stops them because it is time to vote. Here we go. Jade begins and votes for James. So has been swayed. She doesn't go for Matthew, and Matthew seems quite shocked that this has happened. So for
Right.
a moment, he's probably like, oh, it's worked. It's worked. They are going to change. Faraz goes next and votes for Jade, though. He says he's sticking to his guns. Roxy obviously votes for James. But then the shift starts to come. It's Stephen, and he votes for Matthew. And at this moment, I panicked for Stephen, and I thought maybe he's reading the room wrong. Is everyone going to vote for James and he's going to stick out? But no, Jack next votes for Matthew. James obviously votes for Matthew twice. And Matthew then votes for James, not a surprise. And he's also switched away from Jade. I guess he's trying to save himself. And he says, he says maybe it was just two faithfuls bashing one another. And I thought, oh, you were so close, Matthew, to get to figure it out. And it's a deciding vote with Rachel. If she votes for James, it's a tie. If she votes for anyone else, Matthew is going. And she votes for Matthew. So Stephen doesn't really need to worry, I don't think. James is so excited. He's like, yes, we did it. We've got him. Come on. He's can't wait to hear
Good
this
job,
big reveal.
Matthew. You did amazing. I'm
I
so
know.
happy that you're a traitor. Good work, man.
I actually found that quite sweet. Like at least when Matthew gets up, they like hold hands, and even though James is so wrong,
He's so
it's
wrong, but
it's
he's so
quite
supportive.
yeah. He's like
You
I
did
liked
it.
it. I'm like oh, at least, and even for Matthew, he's not like don't touch me.
Oh
He's
yeah.
like oh well. Like I like that they can take it can not take it personally. I do like that they can still be nice to one
Yeah.
another. We see a bit of that later as well with James and Roxy. I maybe I'm just a big emotional sap, but I think it's quite sweet when they
I like
cannot take it, you know,
right.
like that.
There's definitely like a line where it can go too far where they're oh, it's just a game and they're not playing the game at all because
Hmm.
it's just a game. And I think they've hit a nice middle ground where they know it's a game, but they're also still actively playing it and trying to
Yeah,
win.
yeah.
So I liked the way that worked out too.
Rare. And this is I'm not going to spoil anything. I'm not going to name players. Are you watching the US Traitors right now, Maria?
I am.
Yeah. I said this on the last episode, but this couldn't be further from how those celebrities are playing it on US Traitors. It is really they are going at one another quite personally sometimes.
Going
It's
quite both extremes of
yes,
too personal, but also too much just a game.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So it's time for Matthew to give his speech. He says, I just came in and played as myself. I love games. This has been unbelievable. I hope you come and visit me in Edinburgh. Again, that's nice. He's like, hey, we can still be
Uh,
pals. And tells them when Claudia made her decision, I felt the biggest sense of validation because, and he gives them a little look, says, you know it, I'm a faithful. Off he goes. James is like got his head on the table. They all look horrified. Roxy's saying, I knew it. Well played, James. Claudia then has a real go at them, and this moment has become a little bit, memeified already. They talked about it on Unclocked. She is really playing up that she's genuinely annoyed. She says, "What are you thinking?" And she tells them she's genuinely speechless. So they're all probably like, "Oh God, even Claudia's mad at us." She leaves them. They are crestfallen. They get up from the table. James just looks devastated. He stays behind, and they have to bleep his swearing. Now they are showing the
oh,
episodes here in the UK a little bit earlier, so swearing is bleeped. But he basically says, "That's me fucked. Sorry, Matt." Off he goes, and tells us he's feeling, this is soul destroying. He can't believe what he's just done. Off they
do you
go
think
to other
Matthew
parts of the
really,
castle.
do you think he actually, like, that was a good speech, but do you
Yeah.
think he actually felt validated when Claudia tapped him on the shoulder, or do you think he was bummed out? Because I think he really would have been a good traitor. I bet he prepped to be a traitor.
Yeah.
Like, there's no
I
way. Like, I think it was for his speech.
yeah. I think he wanted
It
to be a
is,
traitor. He wanted to be recruited. He made that deal in the
yeah,
church. Yeah, I think he was just trying to wind them up to
which was
have a
totally
good
fine
speech.
with me. It was very cute. I just was like, that's 100% a lie. There's no
Ironically,
way you
yes.
were like,
Yeah,
oh,
agreed.
yes, she chose me as a faithful. I'm so excited. No, I think
Yeah,
we've gotten to know him well enough to know that that's not like what happened.
agreed. He was psyching them out, definitely. So off we go, where we head to the bar. James is so apologetic, and Roxy's like, she's not. She's just like, well, I'm mad at I'm not really you. This is your own fault. You pushed for him. I still think you're a traitor. He reckons he's screwed. She at least he gets upset and she gives him a hug and Rachel hugs him and she says, "Look, I get heated at the round table as well. I get it. I know that you just really believed it and you put your net." So it's nice to. I actually do feel bad for James. Like I've given him a bit of a hard time on the podcast sometimes because he's quite mad and frenetic and has wrong ideas all the time. But
Mhm.
I do feel I really like he's a nice guy actually, and I felt bad for him here. In the library, Stephen talks to Jade and he says he's astonished at James's performance. I think he uses that word quite carefully. And Roxy comes in and says, "Look, James is really upset. He's crying." Stephen asks Jade, "Why did you switch to James? Why didn't you vote for Matthew?" And she's just like, "Oh, I just got confused. I didn't know what to do." Faraz then pipes up, tells everybody in the room, well, he asked them, "What do you think of Rachel?" Because I think she's a traitor. I think she's keeping me here. I I didn't realize they were that close for him to think that, but
Yeah, I think
I
I did. I think I did know that they were friends. I think, but it is interesting, all these little ally groups that we find out, like in this, like the last week of episodes, we find out, oh, this is a very known duo, or this is a
yeah.
very known alliance that we haven't really seen. And if you go back, you could probably see, oh, they always sit together, or they were in the same car. But I do think I saw that they were close before.
Okay. Yeah. So that makes sense then that he's asking that. And he said, everyone is looks horrified that he's even suggesting Rachel could be a traitor. He keeps going. He
Steven.
says, I think, yeah, Stephen's just for, I've never seen Stephen so wide-eyed. Fiona, yeah, he's like, I think what happened with Fiona was traitor on traitor. I think she's got Ross out. She's got Harriet out. So Stephen, Roxy's just like, can't, don't do this to me. I can't think about
Mhm.
this. Stop it. And
Yes.
Faraz then is worried, oh, maybe I put myself in danger. He wishes he'd brought it up at the round table, although I don't think that would have gone well. And he then later in the bar is with Jack and Rachel and James, and he just straight up tells Rachel that he suspects Jade or Stephen and her, and
Yeah.
mentions Fiona again, and he thinks they had a fallout and it was traitor on traitor. So Rachel just sort of is like, I didn't plan to be. I didn't. She came to me and wanted to talk
Mhm.
to me. Like I didn't plan to be in a room alone with her. We weren't two traitors having a discussion. I didn't start that. And says, "Look, suspect all you want. Throw everything at me." So she's, I think, just plays it quite cool, as cool as she can. And
Interestingly, they
she,
didn't actually like bring up, I don't think they brought up their traitor identities in that talk. Like it was obvious,
no,
like they talked as if they were both faithful.
yeah,
And so in other versions, we've seen maybe traitors have gotten together and not come up with a good cover story.
yes,
Um, but for that one, like she can really rely on the fact that no, like Fiona really did say, all my families are coppers, and that's
yeah,
why I think you're a liar. And so I think that she actually has a pretty good cover for that. But
yeah.
yeah, Oz, normally I don't think this is a good strategy, but for him, this actually might have been the only way with Jack having the shield. I feel like this actually could save him because I think he was such an obvious target for murder for him.
Yeah, it. I'm so torn on how this is going to go. I wondered if it was okay to say it to the library, but then not to say it directly to
Yeah.
Rachel. I'm not
Well,
sure. Like maybe
yeah, I
just
wonder, do you think Stephen would have told? I feel like Stephen would have told Rachel
yeah,
regardless.
I think so. Yeah, I think he would have. Yeah, I think they're. And I know there's a bit of doubt at the end of the episode, but I think he's enough of a team player still with Rachel. He would have told her. I think their mission is still to at least get to the very end together,
Hmm.
if they can. And yeah, Rachel tells us that she, in that moment, doubted her ability to stay calm. She says it's getting hard to think on your feet. She's a bit rattled by it, but I think she did well. The chimes tell us it's time to go to bed. They're saying their goodbyes. Faraz even jokes to Rachel, "Don't kill me tonight." And she just sort of flippantly says, You know how you know I'm not a traitor? I'd have killed you the first night." I guess she means again, like, well, we get on quite well. I'd have done that to make it not look like me or
Or
something like
like, I
that.
think she was like, "You're a pesky little child. I would have gotten
Like,
you.
yeah,
I would have swatted you like a fly." Like, I think she might have been teasing him.
yeah.
Like,
So
funny joke.
hopefully that works.
Yeah.
Like the way that she's able to still joke with him, that he might be like, oh, maybe I'm
And I
wrong.
don't know how
I
old
don't
her
know.
kids. I know she has children. I don't know if they're like his age or if they're younger, but I feel like they're that yeah. She
Yeah.
kind of not I don't know if that's the kind of relationship they have, but I think there is a kind of a dynamic where she's older and he's younger, and
Hmm.
she makes fun of him for being younger. She even made
Yeah.
fun of him at one time. Oh, you must be a traitor because all the old people are dying.
Right. Yeah, that's true. That's true. Off we head to the turret then, and Rachel and Stephen reflect on Matthew, the banishment, the crazy round table. They do talk about Faraz and his suspicions of Rachel that he has now voiced to everyone, and move to their murder possibilities. Well, obviously Jack has a shield, so he's out of the running. They think the round table next will be James versus Jade, so, keep them in, let them banish themselves. So it's pretty much Roxy or Faraz who it has to be. They talk about Roxy. They think, well, that could lead back to James. That might shed suspicion on him more. But she's very close to Rachel and Stephen. They kind of wanted to keep her to the end as someone that they could fool.
I think some people were suspecting Roxy, but I don't remember who they were and if they're still in the game.
Yeah, and I guess Jade just named Roxy at the round table. I mean, she named four people, but but Jade was one of them.
True.
Roxy
She
was one
did.
of them. And and James and Roxy have so much conflict. It wouldn't be that difficult for James to just say, "Well, I'm going to vote for you, Roxy." So it's not totally unbelievable that she could get banished. They then talk about Faraz. We get a moment of Faraz and the shot of him in his room. He's just eating like a bowl of crisps, I think, or chips, as you would call them, like out of a bowl, just like casually. It just made me laugh. This shot of
Oh,
him,
I
so
didn't
chill.
see that. So cute.
They worry that he is getting close to the truth. Obviously, he's just named Rachel, and if they get rid of him, well, that's potentially a vote for Rachel out of the way, and maybe it'll throw suspicion onto Jade because Fraz just voted for her at round table. And Stephen says every decision we make now decides whether we make it to that end game. That's what we have to focus on. Rachel says, yep, if we make the wrong decision, it really at this point could cost us our place. They decide who they're going to murder, write it down. Stephen looks like he's going to pass out more than he did on that carousel and tells Rachel, I just need to know we're going to make it to the end. And she throws in something that maybe she hasn't said before, but to me feels obvious or it feels okay. She says, look, I've made one promise since I got here that we're going to work together till the end. But she says, I will have to talk about you at times. I have to look like a faithful. So, if you hear other people saying I've mentioned you as a suspect, I have to do that. That I have to look like a faithful, which I think is totally reasonable. And I often think traitors need to do that. They need to act like they're
Mhm.
suspicious of one another, just not then follow up and vote. So the episode ends with Stephen suddenly having a bit of doubt and suggests for the first time that he will have to consider the possibility that Rachel may turn on him.
Yeah.
And that's where we leave things. Firstly, we're going to talk about our predictions,
Okay.
but let's just talk about that moment with Stephen at the very end. I I wonder if it's just kind of been included in the edit for the sake of creating a bit of tension. I don't think Rachel will turn on Stephen. I don't know if
No.
Stephen really thinks that. I wonder if he just said
Let
it.
her guard down a little bit of like the way she worded it because she does feel so much trust with him
Yeah.
that she said it in a way that maybe he took it differently because
Hmm.
she's always so precise with her language, but I think because they have that level of trust and comfort, um, she the way she worded it may have raised a red flag for him of like, what do you mean? I don't bring you up. And
Hmm.
um, I think, yeah, she was being more cavalier potentially than she usually is.
Mm.
Um, but I think it's because she trusts Steven and she's not trying to pull one over on him. If she was,
Yeah.
I think if she was trying to pull one over on him, I think she would have more finesse, honestly.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because we see how she's been doing that with everybody else. So I think that, but I do think that maybe she potentially made a mistake there because he definitely took it as, oh, like you're like, and she hasn't brought up his name at all. Like
No.
they've talked about each other about the same amount. It's just that her name never comes up. So he hasn't had to be like, oh yeah, maybe it is Rachel.
Yeah.
Hasn't come up until now. Really in like in a way where he would have to discuss it with other people. Whereas his name gets floated a lot and she has shut people down who've been talking about him
Yeah.
throughout or like redirected them or said, oh, this so I don't think he knows like the extent of how much. And also Fiona laid those seeds of doubt of like, oh, you're not helping Stephen enough. You're not should like that could still be in his mind of, oh, well, Fiona did say that you weren't doing enough to help me.
Hmm. Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah. I hope that it was just a brief bit of anxiety from Stephen and that it doesn't really play out. I really don't
It's
want it
true. He
to.
does get anxious all the time. So we have to keep that in mind.
Yeah. It would be quite. I mean, if Rachel was to suddenly vote for Stephen, it would feel a bit odd. Like she'd have to have a really good fake reason for
Mhm.
suddenly vote. Like she's never voted for him before. She's never
No,
spoken about him as a top suspect.
no.
He would have. Yeah, she'd have to have a really convincing reason to suddenly vote for him that doesn't look weird in front of everybody else. So I don't think she will, but maybe Stephen.
Mhm.
Maybe his paranoia is going to get the better of him. I'm not sure.
Oh, I hope not. And it is interesting seeing as I know it seems like Rachel is definitely a fan of the show. I I'm sure Steven is as well. Like if they had seen like, okay, well this is normally when traders turn against each other, or they haven't seen two traders win before. So
Yeah.
maybe that there is that anxiety of last year Mina was like, we're gonna win together, we're doing this, and Charlotte was like, well, obviously, no, like obviously she's thinking the same thing I am, that we're gonna turn against each other. So
Yeah.
maybe he's worried that he's like in Mina's position. I don't know.
Yeah, perhaps he could be. Uh, to lead us into our predictions, then, of who will be murdered, I'm going to play a voice note from Jane, who joined me on episode 8 of the podcast. Jane was on Traitors New Zealand. Jane has sent me her thoughts on this episode and her prediction of what might happen next. Let's listen to that.
As you know, I'm Team Traitor. I really want Stephen and Rachel to get to the end, and it's looking like they might, unless the faithfuls actually come together and go back and actually go on evidence from Fiona and Harriet. The only one that's doing that is Faraz. So if I was Rachel, I would murder Faraz, and that's what I hope they'll do. And then she can just play that, oh, well, I wouldn't have done that, it's too obvious sort of thing. And they'll fall for it because they fall for everything else. And he's the only one that's kind of got a bit of sus on her. So I don't know what you think. I think she's going to murder Faraz, and I think the next out will be banished. Will I don't think it will be James. I think it's going to be. Oh my God, she's so bland. I've forgotten her name. Jade. Jade. I think it's going to be Jade. Anyway, looking forward to the finale. Traitors for the win, please. Bye. Love the podcast.
Thank you for that, Jane. So pretty clear what Jane wants to happen here. Maria, who do you think will be murdered? Is it going to be Faraz or is it going to be Roxy?
I think they've got to go with Faraz because I think that he's a definite vote against Rachel. And yeah, I think that, yes, it's going to be suspicious, but also, even if there were two other traitors that weren't them, they're not keeping in Faraz at this point. Like, I think anybody would be getting rid of him at this point. But I think he did it the best he could to save himself because there wouldn't have been any doubt otherwise, I don't think, in who it would be with Jack having the shield. So I think him causing a ruckus, like normally I would say not that great of a move to go around telling everyone you think Rachel is a traitor, but I think that did actually give them some pause. And so that could help him save himself. And I got last time's prediction so wrong, so maybe they'll but I think Faraz is the right move, but just like I thought that not giving the dagger to James would be the right move, but they ended up being smarter than I was, so who knows. And then banished, probably either James or Jade. I think they need to go James first because I think they need, if this banishment is they're still saying who, if they're a faithful or a traitor, I think they need Jade to be banished when they're not announcing. When Claudia doesn't tell them if they're, then they don't announce if they're faithful or a traitor. What do you think?
I think I'm probably with you on both of those. That I think Faraz is the best decision to make because if I'm not wrong, this will be the last night to murder someone.
Yeah,
So
I think
they can't murder him next time, and he's almost certainly not going to be banished by the others. So I think this is probably the only chance they've got to get Fraz out of the game. And if he's voicing Rachel as suspect now, they can't have that at the end gate. They can't have someone that continues to doubt her and vote for her. So but then maybe they pull, maybe if I don't know. It depends on the faithful the next morning say, "Hey, we've been fooled too many times. Maybe we do just go with the obvious." And Rachel, he suspected you last night, and that's too convenient that he's now got. I mean, they probably won't, but I think Roxy's much more valuable to keep.
I think so.
So,
Yeah.
and if Rachel and Stephen know that this is their last chance to murder, then I think they have to get Faraz out.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. And banishment, I'm with you. It's got to be James or Jade, unless something wild happens next episode. James or Jade, and maybe they just follow what happened tonight and say, James, you engineered that. You got Matthew out. You gave yourself the dagger, and you're a traitor. We even saw Jack's always votes with James, but now is saying, even I'm doubting you now, James. So maybe that comes to fruition and James is banished. We are not quite finished with episode 10 yet because we've got lots of questions and observations already from our listeners. So we're going to talk about those in our bonus Q&A episode right after this. And of course, Maria and I will be concluding the Traitor, trying to uncover what we both lied about in this episode. For now, Maria, I mentioned that you are an author at the start of the podcast. Can you tell us a bit more about what you've written, your latest book? Tell us where we can find you on socials.
Yes. So my audiobook, Margarita in the Spotlight, is a middle grade audiobook produced by Audible Originals. And so they own all of the English speaking territories, so hopefully it's available everywhere. I guess if people look in other territories, let me know. I'm not entirely sure. But
I've checked it out. I'm sure it's available in the UK on Amazon.
Okay, excellent. Yeah. 'Cause, Audible has all the world English language rights, so I figured it would be available. So if you have an Audible account, it would be free with your Audible account. If you don't, maybe send me a message on Instagram and I can get you a code to read it. But yes, it's about like for 8 to 12 year olds is kind of the target audience. But since it's an audiobook, I find that it's gone to kind of different audiences, just people who like audiobooks, and it has original music that I wrote the lyrics to, but it's fully performed with like instruments and singing and all of that. So it's really cool. And so that is my middle grade book. And then for the romantic comedies, I do write that under a pen name, Fiona Marin. And so there's two that are based like in the school system. So the principal of it all and oh gosh, I'm sorry, I forgot. But that's in the Teachers After Hours series. I have two books in that series, and those are full-length rom-coms. Those are kind of more high heat, and then the heat level of the third book is like closed door. So if you prefer that, then Unreal Crush is the name of that one, and it's kind of loosely based off of The Circle. Which
Oh.
yeah, I was when my kid was born, I watched a lot of The Circle when I was like pumping and everything. So I was like, what if a mom goes into The Circle and the whole point is, or goes into one of these game shows and their whole point is trying to play matchmaker for their kid that they're catfishing as. So that's sort of the one. Um, and so yeah, those are available in all territories as well. And those are in English, yeah.
And I know a lot of Traitors fans watch The Circle as well. I'm sure that might intrigue them. Can you
Yeah.
tell us a little bit more about Margarita in the Spotlight? What's like a little synopsis of it?
So that's a book about a girl who is a backup singer in her stepsister's country band, and there's kind of a racial reckoning in country music, and she becomes the kind of a talking point, and she becomes in the middle of this conversation, and yet like she's been raised by her white mom, and she's in this in her step family, like she just has it doesn't have that much connection to her Mexican American identity, so it's something of um having to learn more about that while also learning a lot more about the having these conversations about race in the middle of this in the spotlight, which is how it
Yeah,
got the name. And while it's like a national conversation. So
yeah.
yeah, that's kind of what the book is about. And it's it's got some tough topics, but it's definitely appropriate for kids. It's written in a fun and hopefully it's funny kind of way. Yeah.
Yeah, fantastic. I will put the link to the books in the episode description so people can find them really easily. And I'll put Maria's Instagram. Maria, where can we find you on Instagram?
I think at Maria Frazer underscore. I'm pretty sure.
Perfect. Yeah, it's really easy to find, but I'll put it in the episode description again so people can follow Maria, find out more about what she writes. To make sure you're up to date with the podcast, as always, and Traitors news, updates from around the world, podcast updates, sometimes little videos from me, sometimes I go live. You can follow on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at the Trader Podcast. And this is actually a reminder for me to tell people if you can't, lots of people leave comments on YouTube. I would try and avoid spoilers of future episodes in your YouTube comments. So if you're commenting on episode 9, try not to spoil anything that happens in episode 10, because sometimes a couple of listeners have said, oh man, I've just had something
Yeah, I
spoiled for me. I
saw
hadn't
that.
watched the next episode. So let's just, I'll keep that in mind as well. And listeners are really great at not giving me spoilers and sending messages about the episodes but saying, spoilered, Matthew, don't read ahead. So I really appreciate that. Thank you. Because I'm not always watching live. I'm usually on a bit of a delay, sometimes not till the next morning. A few other things to tell people about that are coming up for the pod, which are very exciting. I am going to be on BBC Radio Manchester at 10 a.m. on Saturday, the 24th, so the morning after the UK finale. And I'll be joined by Magiker and Sanjay, who you all know from the podcast. We're going to be talking to the host. We're going to be doing a little quiz talking all about Traitors finale, so that's good fun. I've been on BBC Radio before, but usually it's either like at midnight or it's at 6 a.m. 10 a.m. on a Saturday seems much more reasonable, so if
So
you're up, you can
cool.
listen to that online. You can catch up on it afterwards as well. I'm going to do another Instagram live as well. I will do it I'm planning for noon UK time, Saturday the 24th. Again, like the day after the finale. Maybe just a shorter one this time. I'll come on for 25 minutes, 30 minutes, and we can have a chat about the finale. I'm doing that before I record the finale podcast episode because I will be recording that a couple of days later than usual. I'll do that on Sunday, the 25th, and the podcast will then come out that day at some point. And we'll do the final listener Q&A episode a few days beyond that, just because it's the last chance for us to get all your thoughts on this entire series. So we'll leave it a few days to give everybody time to watch it, listen to the finale episode of the podcast, then send your thoughts. And David Bloomberg and I will go through all of the question and answers. Well, our answers a few days after that. Beyond that, I mentioned this briefly before on the pod. I'm going to host an online game of the Traitors. Details to be confirmed, but I'm planning that right now, so I'll keep everybody up to date. I'm really looking forward to it. You can send me any questions and thoughts on Instagram and TikTok and YouTube. You can email me at thetradarpodcast@gmail.com. You could do what Jane did and leave a voice note at memo.fm/thetradarpodcast. We've got another voice note coming up from a listener in our Q&A app next. And as always, it's really, really great if you can share the podcast, subscribe, leave a review, follow, anything like that. Just helps other people find it, helps keep the podcast going, basically. And you can support the pod in a couple of ways. You could visit thetradar.redbubble.com, where you can acquire some really cool merch and show off how much you love the podcast or how much you just love the Traitors. And finally, if you've been listening to this whole season and enjoying and you want the podcast to keep going, you can chip in at coffee.com. It's not a subscription. You can choose what you want to donate and leave it at that. If you can, if you can't, that's absolutely fine. Just sharing the podcast is enough. That's ko-fi.com/Matthew Keeley. And I've got a couple of thank yous because in the past few days, there have been really kind donations from VJ. VJ says, thank you for the podcast. I love it more than the actual show. You and David and your other guests provide such a joyful listening experience. That was really nice. Thank you, VJ. And Holly donated and said, 2 podcasts per Traitors episode means I never have to stop thinking about the Traitors, which is exactly how I want it. Thank you. Also, you've inspired me to try other international versions. Keep it up. I think Holly joined us on the Instagram live recently and was asking about other versions. So Holly has taken on that advice. That's really, really cool. Thank you, Holly. Stay with us for our follow-up episode. We're going to get to your questions. We're going to finish the Trade Our Traitor, reveal our lies. Maria, thank you for joining me, and we'll be back on the bonus episode right after this. Until then, everyone, laters, traders.